What's going on, guys? It's Shanx here, coming at you with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today this will be a new little segment I'm starting on the channel called Tech Talk. And this is where we just grab a random card that's really good, mainly anti-meta cards than just cards that are good in other decks. Just one that you can splash in any deck and just play it, and it can actually do helpful things, like, because that's obviously what a tech card is, but like not for specific decks, and basically talk about why it's a good card. And today we have Artifact Lancea. Now let me read the exact effect to you. So it's a light fairy, 5 stars, 1700 attack, 2300 defense, and it's got the normal artifact thing. You can set it in the spell or trap zone. If they blind MST it during your opponent's turn or something, you can special summon it. That's not the important part. It says right here, during your opponent's turn, you contribute this card from your hand or face up from your side of the field. Neither player can banish cards for the rest of this turn. This is a quick effect. So basically, it's a hand trap that, like, during your opponent's turn, you can just discard it and then nothing can be banished, which is awesome. It's so good. Like, neither player can banish cards. And it can shut down a lot of decks, as you can see here. I just have 3 up here. You got Nekroz, the most important, or not important, but popular deck right now. Look at all of these nice cards. Decisive Armor's not that good, but it's just, these are Nekroz cards that get shut down. You can't recycle your spell cards, which is crazy if someone discards Lancea, because you need to recycle your spell cards all the time. You have Nekroz Mirror, so they can't use their graveyard. So say if they have a nice play in their graveyard, they like just top deck Nekroz Mirror. They already have like attrition hand or something. You can just discard Lancea and chain to Mirror, and then they have to try to summon it using cards on their field in their hand. And it doesn't work out nice for them because they can't banish from their graveyard, which is crazy. It stops their plays, and it's a quick effect, so you can chain it, and obviously you can't recycle your cycles or your kaleidoscopes. This stops Jin, because they can't banish Jin as a cost from the graveyard, so say if they already have a Jin in the graveyard, they can't really do anything with it. It's just chilling for the rest of the turn. But remember that you kind of want to activate it at the right time, because you don't want to chain it to, say, the summon of a Nekroz Trishula, because sure, they can't banish, but they could have banished the Jin to summon it. So you wanna really think of when to play this card. You want it to be real skillful when you play it. But other cards you can stop. Your opponent can't Valkyrus, which, looking back on this actually kind of wouldn't work unless they played it against you, because they do it during your opponent's battle phase, and you can only activate this during your opponent's turn. So not really Valkyrus, but they can't Trishula. When they summon Trishula and they go to banish cards, you discard this card, and then they can't do anything. They just basically summon a 27 beat stick. You got Decisive Armor. No one really plays this card, but you can destroy, like, they can destroy a set card your opponent controls, and then after they do, they banish it. So if they actually destroy a set card, you can chain this and they can't banish it, so they just destroy the set card, which is kind of cool. But one thing I wanted to note, Dance Princess can basically shut this card down, but if they've already been through their Dance Princess, then it doesn't matter, because you can't activate anything in response to the ritual spell cards, and you cannot so if they activate Mirror, you can't drop this, so you'd have to activate it only in response to Trishula. So Lancea is not that good when they have Dance Princess out, but it's still a good card nonetheless. And it also stops Ritual Beasts. All of the beasts cannot banish anything. They literally can't. And they can't contact fuse with their Ulticana Hawks and things. All these over here I haven't done here too, but so I wouldn't forget I put them here. But they can't contact fuse if you Lancea. So if you see them say go for Wen, I didn't put Wen up here, I don't know why, Wen, and summon a card from the banish, and they're gonna contact fuse, you can tell, chain to the Wen a Lancea, so they can't really do any plays. They basically end their turn with 2 monsters on board, and then if you're playing smart, you can OTK them. You're playing Nekroz, you can clear their board and then use Jin. You can just do a whole bunch of things. So Lancea is pretty nice against Ritual Beasts. It's probably the best card ever. And it also stops their Sark. They can't get their Sark plays, because you can they can play Sark and you can chain to Sark. So it's like, oh, okay. So it's basically done. So yeah, that's why it's good against Ritual Beasts. You got Monarchs. It's really against these two cards. It's only against the Vassal Monarchs, really, too. Basically, if they summon Caius, you can chain this to the summon of Caius, and they can't banish your card. You can chain it to, you can't really chain it to Lucius. You have to play it at the right time, but they can't banish the monster from their graveyard to summon Lucius. So he'd be a dead card in their hands. So say if they somehow, I don't know if there's a way to search Vassals, I think there is, but if they search Lucius, then you can just chain this to Lucius. Or like if you see them somehow get it into their hand, then you can chain it to that like you chain Minecraft. So yeah, Lucius can't be activated. Good and Evil of the Burning Abyss. If people actually play Malakota, which a lot of people don't, or if they just play the spell, and you can't use its Rhoda-like effect, because you can just chain this to it when it's the opponent's turn and they're going to activate it, so that's pretty nice. If they Farfa and they're trying to get rid of one of their own monsters or one of your monsters to go for a big push, you can just negate, you can chain this to Farfa and they can't do anything about it, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, that's why it's alright against Burning Abyss. It's not too good against Burning Abyss. I would normally side it out, maybe keep one in, but yeah, it's pretty nice against them. Next up, you got Infernoids. I only put 3 up here, but this literally stops the entire deck. And I also put Voidseer here because they can target one of their guys, and it's unaffected by opponent's card effects, but you can actually destroy it by the card effect. You can't banish this from your grave because they can't banish cards. But yeah, they can't summon any Infernoids. So say if you see them pop a Reasoning, then they can mill their entire thing and you chain Lancea and they're left wide open. So yeah. Lancea is amazing against Infernoids. Next up, just a card that a lot of people run. You got Skill Prisoner. When it's in the grave, they can't banish it and use its banish effect, so that's kind of cool. And then next up, you got Boojins. They can't activate Hare, Turtle, or Quillen, or any of those cards that use the banishing of the Boojins, so that's kind of cool. So basically, their Yamato's left wide open for card effects, not really attacks because they can always have Crane, but like during their turn they can't protect their Yamato. You can kind of just bang it out. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Dragon Rulers. If you see them do any Dragon Ruler play, find out they're playing Dragon Rulers whatsoever. If they're playing Lightsworn, they use Raiden, they mill 2, and you see a Dragon Ruler, chain this card, because they can't go to any of their Dragon Rulers. They can't banish for them, so they just have a bunch of dead Dragon Rulers for a turn, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, and they can't really do anything with them, so they're just going to be sitting there with the Raiden, and then they'll be wide open for attacks and things, so that's pretty cool. And I also put Red MD here because say if they, they have Red MD, you can just chain this so they don't banish it. Or you see that they're playing the Dark Matter deck, and they make Dark Matter. I didn't put Dark Matter on here, but you can chain to Dark Matter, and you can't banish cards from your deck. Like, they can't banish your cards from your deck, they just get the 3 dumps, and you know that they're going to go for a Red MD, so you can just chain this to that, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, it stops Red MD. Next up, you got Madolches. It only really stops one card in the deck, and that's Hoot Cake, but Hoot Cake's the heart of the deck, so they can't really go for crazy summon plays. It can stop Breakthrough Skill, its second thing, so that's pretty cool if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, during your turn, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it. So yeah, so during the opponent's turn, you can chain Lancea so they can't Breakthrough Skill your cards. Pretty awesome. Next up, you got these two guys. They're used in Shadows a lot. They can't banish for their effects, so that's kind of sweet. A lot of people don't do that too much. But yeah, it's not possible to do if you chain Lancea, so that's awesome. Against Spellbooks, they can't Fate you. They can't Justice of Prophecy, because that happens during the end phase, so it's still their turn. And they can't pop cards with High Priestess of Prophecy. So it pretty much stops all the good cards in Spellbooks. So yeah, it gets rid of all their outs, so that's nice. If you have a big monster on board, they basically can't get over it, so that's cool. For Evil Swarms, it can stop Kirkion. They can't use the recycling effect of Kirkion, because you can just chain it to his summon. Thunderbird, they can't put away their Thunderbird. If you chain Lancea to things, then they can't put away their Thunderbird, but you should really, the thing you want to pay attention to is that when they activate Thunderbird effect, you want to chain Lancea right away so it doesn't get banished, which is awesome. So that's pretty good. It stops this. And Rabbit, even if Rabbit comes back to 2, this could also be used against other decks, but people run Rabbit and Evil Swarms. I've played games where I was playing Lancea in the main deck, and someone would summon a rabbit, and then I would chain Lancea, and then they'd either scoop or they'd just sit there with the 300 attack monster. And like if they didn't set any spell or traps, they were done. If they did, then whatever. But you stop their entire turn. They use their normal summon and they can't make an Ophion. So yeah, stops Evil Swarm pretty well. And then these are just a bunch of like miscellaneous cards. Against those Infernity heroes, this should be grouped with this. Against Infernity heroes, a lot of people play that. They can't use their Street Patrols. If you run Street Patrol, I honestly don't know what Infernity hero has. I just imagine they run this. Miracle Fusions, that's a scary card when someone plays it, and some people run in their masked heroes. I know I do. So you can just chain this to the Miracle Fusion. They can't banish cards. Spore. If you see a Spore hit the grave, chain Lancea once it hits the grave, or just play Lancea once it hits the grave, and they can't banish it and go for crazy Quasar Synchro plays, or in Sylvans they can't really do much with their Spore. Mizuki, a lot of people are running that Beals deck, and Mizuki's used in it, or just a bunch of zombie decks use Mizuki. I know those two new zombie cards that are coming out in Return of the Bling are pretty nice when you play them with Mizuki. So a lot of people are playing Mizuki, so you can just do this once Mizuki hits the grave and they can't banish it. Necro. Now that I think about it, you shouldn't. Necro doesn't count because it only happens during your opponent's turn. I just threw out a bunch of cards that I could think work, but it doesn't work. But because it happens during your opponent's turn, you can only activate Necro during your opponent's turn, so it doesn't work out. But you also got Dark Arm Dragon, which is pretty sweet, because if they drop the Dark Arm Dragon, they can't do anything with it. They just have a 28 beat stick, which is still nice, but they can't. So if they're playing that Teledad deck, they basically just have a beat stick of a Dark Arm Dragon, and then you could probably get over it next turn, or snatch steal it, do something crazy, and win the game. And one card I forgot to mention is Karma Cut. Karma Cut can also be stopped by this. All Burning Abyss players play Karma Cut most of the time, unless they're playing Trapless. So, you could, run the Karma Cut. Well, they run Karma Cut and they activate the effect. They discard, like, a Skarm or something, or even a Farfa. If they really want to be crazy, they discard the Farfa so you can actually get the, they can get the Farfa effect, and then they go to banish a card with Karma Cut. You can just be like, oh no, Lancea, and they just went neg. Like a real bad neg. But a lot of people don't discard, Farfa or Karma Cut, but it's a possibility. So yeah, it also stops Karma Cut. But yeah, that's why I think it's such a good card in this meta right now. Banishing is a thing that happens a lot in Yu-Gi-Oh! Every deck basically can do it. Normally, it could even not even be like an offensive banishing, like you can't banish your opponent's monster in certain decks, but they still banish from their graveyard, so it stops their banishing too. So it's just kind of amazing. It's like an Imperial Iron Wall for a turn, and it's chainable too, and they can't get over it with MST, and it's a hand trap. And if you set this, you can also summon it during your opponent's turn, have a nice wall, and then you can also tribute it off your side of the field, say if you have it like that. But I would never set Lancea, it's a hand trap. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me more tech cards to talk about in the future, maybe in the comments, or something that I missed that Lancea could be good against. Share, because sharing means caring. And this is Shanx, and I'm out. Peace.